One of the biggest misconceptions about DIY investing is that if it helped you build wealth, it'll always be the right approach. I don't think that's true. In fact, if you think it through, the opposite is often true. The wealthier you become, the more expensive mistakes become, while the complexity of your financial situation increases and your time becomes more valuable. So the question eventually stops being, can I do this myself? And becomes, should I still be doing this myself? Hi, I'm Hilary Hendershott, founder of Hendershott Wealth Management. We publish content to help you strengthen your financial life, grow your net worth, and feel supported through the moments that matter. If that's the kind of guidance you're looking for, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. The first thing that changes is the cost of mistakes. When you're early in your investing journey, mistakes are usually educational. You buy something you shouldn't have, you panic during a correction, you chase performance, you learn a lesson, and you move on. But later in life, the stakes can become dramatically larger. Maybe it's a poorly timed tax decision. Maybe it's holding too much company stock for too long. Maybe it's selling during a market decline. Or maybe it's simply missing an opportunity you didn't know existed. At a certain level of wealth, the question isn't, how much did that mistake cost me? The question becomes, did I just cost myself 2 years of financial freedom? Did I just cost myself 3 more years of work? Did I just delay a goal that was important to me? And that's the point where many people start thinking differently about that kind of risk. Because at some point, mistakes stop being educational and start becoming expensive. Sometimes very expensive. This is one reason investor behavior matters so much. Over the years, I've watched very intelligent people make surprisingly expensive decisions with their own money, not because they lacked information and not because they weren't capable, but because it's incredibly difficult to be objective when the money is yours, when markets are falling, when headlines are scary, when your company's stock has doubled, when you're sitting on a really large capital gain and wondering whether to sell, but you hate the idea of a massive tax bill. Knowledge helps, but objectivity matters too. Markets become much harder emotionally when the stakes become meaningful. It's easy to feel rational when the numbers are small. It's much harder when a market decline wipes 7 figures off your balance sheet. The second thing that changes is complexity. Most DIY investors start with a fairly straightforward situation: a retirement account, maybe a brokerage account, maybe a house, a handful of investments. The challenge is that successful people rarely stay financially simple. Eventually, you're managing large taxable accounts, maybe company stock, maybe deferred compensation, maybe more real estate, maybe a business interest. And increasingly, the question is not, what should I invest in? The question becomes, how do all of these moving pieces affect each other? Because at some point, your financial life stops being an investment problem and starts becoming a coordination problem. Taxes affect investments. Investments affect retirement options. Retirement decisions affect taxes. Business decisions affect liquidity. Estate decisions affect future tax consequences. Everything affects everything else. And coordinating all those moving pieces takes real time, wisdom, and attention. I've found that most expensive financial mistakes don't happen because someone picked the wrong fund. They happen because nobody was looking at the whole picture. And increasingly, what matters isn't making one good decision, it's making sure hundreds of decisions are all pulling in the same direction. The third thing that changes is the value of your time. And I think this one is often underestimated. The irony is that the stage of life when your finances become most complex is often the same stage of life when your time becomes most valuable. Your career is demanding more from you. Your family needs more from you. You might be raising children. You might be supporting parents, leading teams, running a business, trying to build a life that you actually enjoy. And at some point, a different question starts to emerge. Not, can I manage this myself? But is this the highest and best use of my time? Because DIY investing isn't just about managing investments and picking funds. It's about staying current on tax law changes, researching planning strategies, monitoring concentrated positions, evaluating retirement decisions, reviewing estate planning considerations, and coordinating all the moving pieces of a growing financial life. For some people, that's genuinely enjoyable. For others, it gradually becomes another responsibility competing for their attention. And eventually, many successful people realize something important. The stage of life when they can most afford professional help is often the same stage of life when that help becomes most valuable. So, when should you stop DIY investing? You should consider it when the consequences of mistakes become larger than you're comfortable with, when the complexity exceeds the amount of time and attention you want to dedicate to it, or when your financial life becomes important enough that you no longer want to be the only person responsible for getting every decision right. Those are the real thresholds when the consequences become larger, the complexity becomes greater, and the time required becomes more than you're willing to invest. Because the job changes. The skills that help you build wealth are not the same skills that help you steward significant wealth. Early on, the goal is accumulation. Later, the goal is protecting what you've built and the legacy it will provide. Coordinating increasingly complex decisions, avoiding costly mistakes, and making sure your wealth continues serving the life you're trying to create. That's why the decision to stop DIY investing isn't really about investing at all. It's about recognizing that the stakes have changed. Because at some point, a mistake isn't measured in dollars, it's actually measured in years. If you're thinking about your next financial chapter and want a partner who looks at the full picture, not just your investments, we'd love to connect. We're a fee only fiduciary team focused on after tax outcomes and long term planning, helping our clients keep more of what they earn so their money can support the life they're building. If that sounds like the kind of guidance you're looking for, you can schedule a complimentary conversation with one of my lead advisors by visiting hendershottwealth.com/contact to see if our approach is the right fit for you.